They just announced the new Hermione, Ron, and Harry Potter kids, and there's already a huge controversy, concern, and race debates. Russia just launched its largest drone and missile attack yet, hours after Trump called Putin crazy and Germany greenlit strikes inside Russia. Trump's now taking his war on Harvard to new heights. Did the French president really just get slapped up by his wife? And a car tore through a massive Liverpool victory parade, injuring nearly 50 and igniting a firestorm over motive, race, and misinformation. We're talking about all that and much more on today's brand new Philip DeFranco show. You daily dive into the news, starting with this. The new Harry Potter cast just got announced, and immediately we're seeing controversy and concern. Because if you didn't know, HBO is doing a Harry Potter TV series based on the books. And this morning we got the announcement that Dominic McLaughlin will play Harry, Arabella Stanton will play Hermione, and Alistair Stout will be Ron. With all three being pretty fresh faces to the industry, and just immediately you had people kind of feeling a bit of excitement and nerves for these kids. Right? Because these roles, they're expected to be huge life-changing opportunities. I mean, over 30,000 actors audition for them. But immediately, most of the public responses have been things like, these poor kids are about to need therapy for the rest of their lives. And I don't intend on watching the show, but let these kids be free of any hate and harassment. They don't need any of it. And I hope they are protected from the evil side of the internet. Right? And that seemingly because in addition to everything we've seen with child actors in general, when it comes to a franchise as big as Harry Potter, there's going to be a huge spotlight. And we've already seen what happened to the previous cast. Right? You've had Daniel Radcliffe, the original Harry, opening up about this, saying that one of the hardest parts of growing up in the spotlight was trying to work out who you are while constantly coming up against a perception of yourself that everybody else already has. With him previously saying the panic of the movie is coming to an end contributed to him abusing alcohol. But with all this, you definitely had people especially worried for the girl playing Hermione. Or with some saying, I hope the actress who plays Hermione never experiences what Emma Watson had to go through. Because Emma Watson has dealt with just a truckload of bullshit, including things like on her 18th birthday, you had paparazzi lying down on the pavement outside of her party to take upskirt photos. And that's in addition to things like photos of her doing a wardrobe fitting were stolen in a hack, and she had to deal with people threatening to leak nude images of her. And sometimes people forget this, but when deepfake porn was like first starting to become a thing, she was one of the most impacted celebrities. Though there, it's really just the technology that's changed. If you hop on Twitter right now and you search her, most of the images that you're gonna find are AI sexual images. Right? And so people saying that the amount of hypersexualization that Emma's experienced as the result of a role that she started playing as a child, it's just fucking insane. And then in addition to all that, you have people worried about this new Hermione because there's already been speculation about her race. And this might remind you of backlash from around 10 years ago when it was announced that a black actress was playing Hermione in the stage adaptation of The Cursed Child. Right? And there you saw immediate backlash, though you had J.K. Rowling defending the casting and saying, canon, brown eyes, frizzy hair, and very clever. White skin was never specified. Rowling loves black Hermione. And even though, based on the photo that we have of her, it looks like Arabella Stanton fits that canon, it's not hard to find people either speculating or mad about what her race might be. Right? With people saying things like, why did they brown Hermione? Nobody wants this shit. This better not be some woke reboot. Wait, when was Hermione Latina? And again, all of this is speculation, right? We have some online saying you have a black Hermione, others saying she's not black, and it's not like the casting announcement came with her 23andMe results. And so with all that, looking at the coverage, you had outlets like Forbes saying, not that anyone should speculate on people's race, but this is the modern internet, and unfortunately, Arabella Stanton is instantly being put under a microscope for looking mildly not white, maybe? With them adding, we already see speculation based on her name. Arabella might be Greek, Stanton is English. But again, this is why these kids are going to need to be protected from what is no doubt going to be an awful internet discourse. And that sentiment is something we have seen echoed by others online. You know, ultimately, we're gonna have to wait to see how this plays out. This is largely adding fuel to an already existing fire, because there's already been controversy and discourse over the fact that the actor playing Snape in the TV reboot is black. But, you know, with that, while we wait to see how this continues to play out, in the meantime, I'd love to know your thoughts on the casting and the controversy, or really anything here. But then, next up, did French President Emmanuel Macron just get smacked up by his wife on camera? Right, that is what many are asking, because they had just landed in Vietnam and were about to get off the plane when video caught her pushing his face. Right, in the video, you don't see Brigitte fully, just her hands, and Macron then sort of pauses and then waves it off once he sees the camera, with the two then later walking off the plane, with Macron walking out first and his wife following. Right, and we've seen a huge reaction to this, some people using it to make jokes and memes about Macron, though then you had others arguing that it's serious, writing, people will get lots of jokes off about Macron getting slapped by his wife, but real talk, if you're in a relationship where someone puts hands on you, leave. It's not normal and there's no excuse for it. People who love and respect you don't hit you. And imagine for one moment if Macron pushed his wife in the face like this. Imagine. Domestic abuse against men is common and widely ignored. All violence is unacceptable. Right, and then you had some noting that Macron's wife is over 20 years older than him, and they met when he was 15 and she was a teacher at his school, apparently growing close there while she oversaw a theater workshop. And then later you had them marrying when he was 29 and she was 54, and so you had some say, and if I say she's probably been abusing him like this and she groomed and preyed on him as a child when she was his teacher, then what? Right, and with all this video has especially gone viral in more right-wing circles where it's being used then to further spread conspiracies and rumors that Brigitte is trans. Right, something that a number of people have spread for a long time, though notably there it's important to note she did previously file a complaint against 2 people who spread that claim on YouTube, and she won money and damages. You then also in this situation had The Guardian noting it was likewise going viral among far-right French accounts, and it was promoted by Russian state media, with them pointing to a Russian foreign ministry spokesperson who shared the footage and equated the push to a right hook. And this whole situation got so much attention it prompted Macron to address the controversy, and he says that it's essentially being blown out of proportion, because you had Macron telling reporters that they were just bickering and joking around, which is something they often do, and adding, "I'm surprised by it. It turns into some kind of global catastrophe where people are even coming up with theories to explain it. It's nonsense." With him then also suggesting that this is just the latest case of people trying to take clips of him out of context to spread conspiracies. Right, and that because earlier this month, when he met with the German Chancellor and British Prime Minister, people saw a tissue on the table and started claiming that it was actually a bag of cocaine, within his office putting out a statement condemning the rumors and saying, "When European unity becomes inconvenient, disinformation goes so far as to make a simple tissue look like drugs. This fake news is being spread by France's enemies both abroad and at home. We must remain vigilant against manipulation." Right, and then, because that cocaine rumor was at least partially traced to pro-Russian accounts, a source from Macron's office told CNN that those same accounts were simply ready to pounce on and spin narratives around this latest video of Macron and his wife. But with that, if we just focus on this latest video and situation, I really would love to know your thoughts. Because, I try to be open and willing to hear all possibilities with the situation, but I don't know, looking at that video, that seemed a little more aggressive than some playing around. Like maybe it was I'm a little tipsy playing around and accidentally went a little too aggressive. And even then, I'm not saying that's what actually happened. It's just to act like it's crazy to raise an eyebrow to this video is ludicrous. Especially because, yeah, I agree with the sentiment that if the roles were reversed and you saw Emmanuel Macron do that to Brigitte, there would be a wildly different reaction to it. But hey, that's a story, then a little bit of my opinion, and I'll pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts? But then, shifting gears from that, the UK is now scrambling for answers after a 53-year-old man drove his car through a crowd in Liverpool yesterday, injuring nearly 50 people. Though with that, multiple sources have given conflicting numbers. So whatever the final number is, it feels miraculous that I only have to say injured, because currently it looks like no one was killed and the 11 people remaining in the hospital are in stable condition. And while the police are still trying to work through the whys of this situation, here's what we know. Thousands of people were out in the streets to take part in Liverpool FC's Premier League victory parade, and at some point an ambulance had to get through the crowd to treat someone and a barrier was lifted to let them through, with then the 53-year-old following the ambulance to get past the roadblock before plowing through the crowd. Right, and with this situation, there is footage that is very easy to find that I unfortunately can't show on YouTube because it's YouTube, but you have many saying the footage makes it unclear whether it was an intentional attack or not. Or with some saying it looks like the guy got into the crowd and people started hitting the car and then he drives off into the crowd and it's unclear if he got into there on accident, meant to be there or what. But whatever the case may be with that, first-hand accounts make it clear that it is a miracle that no one died. Right, you had one guy telling the BBC, "I saw a gentleman on the bonnet and the rest was just chaos." With him then going on to add, "My partner went under the wheel and the car went over her leg." And it could have been a whole hell of a lot worse for him as his baby stroller was thrown like 15 feet down the road. Now with that said, going back to the 53-year-old driver, he's facing a ton of charges right now, including attempted murder, dangerous driving offenses, and driving while unfit through drugs. Or with those last two seeming to be analogous to reckless driving and a DUI. Now with that, as part of the investigation, you have investigators scouring CCTV footage to track the driver's movements to try and get a better idea of what led up to this. They're also urging the public to not speculate about a motive, and they highlighted that they're not treating this as a terror attack, although officially an actual motive is yet to be revealed. So as we wait for more there, as you can imagine, you have a lot of people reacting to the news. Or you've got the King of England saying it is truly devastating to see what should have been a joyous celebration for so many could end in such distressing circumstances, saying our prayers and deepest sympathy are with all those who have been affected. You also had Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying,
"Scenes of joy turned to utter horror and devastation, and my thoughts and the thoughts of the whole country are with all of those that are affected."
And in a tweet, he wrote, "The scenes in Liverpool are appalling. My thoughts are with all those injured or affected. I want to thank the police and emergency services for their swift and ongoing response to this shocking incident." And you also had Liverpool FC coming out to address the attack.
"On behalf of all of us here at Liverpool Football Club, I would like to extend our heartfelt thoughts to all those who have been affected by this appalling incident on Water Street yesterday evening. This weekend was one of celebration, emotion, and joy spread across the city and our entire fan base. And it ended in unimaginable scenes and distress with this appalling incident."
With CEO Billy Hogan then going on to thank first responders, and then he ended with,
"I would also like to thank our supporters who witnessed this event and helped each other where they could. We continue to work with the emergency services and the local authorities to support their ongoing investigation. And once again, we would ask if anyone has any further information about the incident please contact Merseyside Police.
Right, and then in addition to all that, we saw this situation being used to fuel a culture war in the UK. Right, like when this attack was first reported, you started seeing things quickly, like in before they inevitably claimed that there was no clear motive, with a meme clearly showing they think it was a Muslim man. With then another writing, this is the worst attack in England, Liverpool, was the car driver from a specific community. Though that then led to others pushing back and saying, fucking hell, man, people have potentially died in Liverpool today, and the worst cunts in the world are absolutely licking their lips hoping the guy in the car is Muslim. What a fucking grim world we live in. Which then, on the note of race, once it was revealed that the driver was actually a white guy, it appeared that they moved the goalpost. Or with many of those same people saying they were outraged that the media highlighted that he was white, saying things like, it's insane that the media are relentlessly spouting the fact that the Liverpool attacker is white within 1 hour. But when it's a Muslim attacker, police wait days. Britain is full of Islamic apologists. But for now, as we wait for more information, I will just end this with saying, I'm so glad that it appears that no one was killed in this tragedy. Because in looking at the footage, hearing the first-hand accounts, it feels shocking that there's not a death count here. And then I've got more news for you in just a moment. But first, how many times have you had something weird going on with your body and you thought, it'll probably go away, but then also you Google it and you convince yourself you have maybe 6 hours to live? Or maybe you actually try to get help, but the next available appointment, it's 6 months out, 2 cities over, and they only take your insurance if Mercury's in retrograde. Or maybe it's just been a basic experience of feeling like more like a number than a person when you're sharing your private information with your doctor. Because yeah, I think we've all been there, and that's why I love ZocDoc. For today's sponsor, ZocDoc is the easy, most sane way to find and book a doctor. I personally used it myself. I still use it. It's fast, it's free, and it makes you wonder why it ever had to be so hard. Because ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. Plus, they've got over 100,000 in-network doctors across every specialty: mental health, dental, primary care, urgent care, you name it. You can also search by location, availability, and insurance accepted, so you'll know upfront who takes your plan. And unlike the see you in 6 months crowd, many ZocDoc docs have same-day or next-day openings. So y'all stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/Phil or scan the QR code to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/Phil, ZocDoc.com/Phil. But then, in getting back to the news, we've got to talk about the Trump administration taking steps to end all federal contracts with Harvard, because that's what was outlined in a letter from the General Services Administration. With then sources also telling the New York Times that the directive was delivered to federal agencies this morning. And specifically, the letter instructs all federal agencies to review all their contracts with Harvard in order to terminate them or reallocate them to other entities. And even that is in addition to them encouraging agencies to seek alternative vendors for future services where you had previously considered Harvard. And as for the reasoning here, you had the GSA claiming that Harvard, quote, continues to engage in race discrimination, including in its admissions process and in other areas of student life. And claiming that the university, quote, has shown no indication of reforming their admissions process following the 2023 Supreme Court decision that overturned affirmative action and prevented schools from using race as a factor in admissions. So very notably, there the letter provided no statistical evidence for that claim, and it only cited the fact that Harvard now offers what it described as a remedial math course, which the administration says is proof that the school is employing discriminatory factors instead of merit in admission decisions. And that seemingly in reference to the fact that Harvard recently started offering a new introductory math course that aims to cover pandemic-related learning gaps. But then also, beyond that, you had the GSA alleging that troubling revelations have come to light regarding Harvard and its affiliates' potential discriminatory hiring practices and possible violations of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, claiming that the university is suspected of engaging in a pattern or practice of disparate treatment in hiring, promotion, compensation, and other personnel-related actions. And then saying that the Harvard Law Review has engaged in what it called pervasive and explicit racial discrimination in the publication's article selection and editor appointment process. Though again, it's important to note here that those accusations appear to be in reference to 2 separate investigations that the Trump administration has launched against Harvard that are still ongoing. Right, and then in addition to that, finally you had the GSA claiming that it had become aware of, quote, recent events at Harvard University involving anti-Semitic action that suggests the institution has a disturbing lack of concern for the safety and well-being of Jewish students. With him specifically noting there that a pro-Palestine protester who was accused of assaulting a Jewish student had been given a $65,000 fellowship by the Harvard Law Review. And that, as a second demonstrator who faced similar charges, was chosen by the Harvard Divinity School to be the class marshal. Though then, also significantly here, it's been reported that a judge dismissed those charges against both of the students and instead ordered them to attend anger management courses and perform community service. And then with all that, as far as the practical impact that this could have on Harvard, you had Trump administration officials telling numerous outlets that the review will include around 30 contracts worth around $100 million. Though that, as contracts with Harvard-affiliated hospitals, will not be included. Right, but as far as Harvard, this comes as part of Trump's broader crackdown on the university, which has become kind of the primary target in its war on universities. Right, because this isn't coming out of nowhere. We've talked about it before. The administration has frozen a total of around $3.2 billion in grants and contracts with Harvard, which in turn has filed a series of lawsuits against them. You also had last week the Department of Homeland Security revoking Harvard's Harvard's ability to enroll international students who make up nearly a third of the school's student body. Though there, that move was quickly challenged by Harvard and temporarily blocked by a judge. But then, just yesterday, you had Trump making a Memorial Day post on Truth Social where he wrote, "I am considering taking $3 billion of grant money away from a very anti-Semitic Harvard and giving it to trade schools all across our land." Though there, I'll say it's unclear if he's talking about pulling an additional $3 billion or redistributing the $3 billion he's already pulled. And depending on where else you go for your news, it's been described as both very confidently. So, we'll see. Now, with all that said, as far as how Harvard has responded to this latest thing, as of recording, they have not made a public comment. But I will say, in an interview aired this morning with NPR, you had Harvard President Alan Garber reiterating many of his past comments about the ongoing battle, especially as it pertains to allegations of anti-Semitism. Or with Garber, who notably is Jewish, once again acknowledging that the school has problems that it needs to address, but arguing that he doesn't understand how the Trump administration's actions are actually going to combat anti-Semitism.
What is perplexing is the measures that they have taken to address these that don't even hit the same people that they believe are causing the problems. Why cut off research funding? Sure, it hurts Harvard, but it hurts the country because after all, the research funding is not a gift. It is work that they want done. They are paying to have that work conducted. Shutting off that work does not help the country, even as it punishes Harvard. And it is hard to see the link between that and, say, anti-Semitism.
But ultimately, that's where we are right now on just Trump's continued war on Harvard. But then, next up from that, unfortunately, an end to the war in Ukraine, it just seems to be getting further and further away. But also, at the very least, Donald Trump appears to be maybe finally realizing that Vladimir Putin isn't actually his friend. Maybe. Right? Because you see, between Friday and Sunday, Russia launched around 900 drones in Ukraine, killing at least 12 people. And you had Zelensky responding by saying there was no military sense to Russia's aerial attacks and that they were an obvious political choice to continue the war and destroy lives. With him then also notably calling out the US, writing on Telegram, "The world may go on vacation, but the war continues despite weekends and weekdays. This cannot be ignored. America's silence and the silence of others in the world only encourages Putin." But then with that, you soon had Trump speaking to reporters, claiming that he wasn't happy with Putin and even saying he'd be considering new sanctions against Russia.
He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all.
And then with that, he actually kept on criticizing Putin hours later, writing on social media that he has gone absolutely crazy and was shooting missiles and drones into Ukraine cities for no reason whatsoever. Though also, because he's Trump, he couldn't help also get in a shot at Zelensky as well as Joe Biden for good measure, saying Zelensky is doing his country no favors by talking the way he does. Everything out of his mouth causes problems. This is a war that would have never started if I were president. This is Zelensky's, Putin's, and Biden's war, not Trump's. So there's also the same war that on the campaign trail he said he'd end in 24 hours. But whatever the case may be, Trump's words obviously meant nothing to Putin because Russia then launched its largest ever drone and missile attack of the war just a few hours later. In fact, they actually broke their record for the third time this month. And this also after Russia killed at least 209 civilians across Ukraine last month, which made it the deadliest month since September. With Russian forces now also seizing villages along the country's northeastern border to create a buffer zone there ordered by Putin. And notably, all this happening even as we've had the first face-to-face negotiations between Russia and Ukraine in nearly 3 years. Talks that have actually resulted in the largest prisoner swap since the invasion began. Though other than that, they've really yielded nothing. Right after a call with Trump last week, Putin said a memorandum could soon be drafted as a first step to working on a peace deal. Then the Kremlin said yesterday that even this initial document, which is essentially an agreement to just keep talking, hadn't even been finalized by the Russian side, let alone sent to Ukraine. Plus, you also had Russia shooting down Trump's suggestion that the Vatican host future peace talks, with the Russian foreign minister saying it would be inelegant for the Catholic Church to mediate discussions between two principally Orthodox Christian countries. And so now you've got people like the new German Chancellor Friedrich Merz saying, after the last 3 weeks, no one can seriously accuse us of not having exhausted all available diplomatic means. If even an offer to meet at the Vatican does not get Putin's approval, then we must be prepared for this war to last longer than we all wish or can imagine. And notably, with that, you also had him saying that Germany, as well as the UK, France, and the US, are all lifting range restrictions on weapons delivered to Ukraine, saying Russia attacks civilian targets completely ruthlessly, bombing cities, kindergartens, hospitals, and old people's homes. Ukraine doesn't do that. This means that Ukraine can now defend itself, for example, by attacking military positions in Russia with very few exceptions. It didn't do that until recently. It can now do that. Now with that, I'll say, you may remember the US gave Ukraine permission to use long-range missiles against certain targets inside Russia way back in November, as did the UK and France. But Merz, he's suggesting that the number of eligible targets has increased. And very importantly, in doing so, he's signaling an absolutely massive shift from his predecessor. And that's a huge deal because Germany Germany is the second biggest supplier of weapons to Ukraine after the US. And so now, with this announcement, there's speculation that it may soon be ready to supply Ukraine with its Taurus cruise missile system, which has an advanced navigation system and 310-mile range, allowing it to accurately strike far deeper inside Russia than other missiles currently in Ukraine's arsenal. And that's including those provided by the US. And so in response, of course, you had a Kremlin spokesperson describing the decision as dangerous and adding, if these decisions have indeed been made, they are completely at odds with our aspirations for a political settlement. You know, really, as I always say, words are words, actions are actions, and the actions seem to show that Russia is uninterested in a political settlement. But hey, for now, we're gonna have to wait to see how this plays out, and in the meantime, I'd love to know your thoughts. But that, my friends, is the end of your Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning dive into the news. But I can already tell there's a lot we're gonna have to talk about tomorrow, so I'll leave you how I always leave you. Thanks for watching. I love yo faces, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.